You ever move into a place that just doesn't sit right with you? That was me, a few months ago. I'd just gotten out of a bad breakup and found a small apartment downtown. Cheap, quiet, nothing fancy, but it felt like the reset I needed. Or so I thought. From day one, I noticed weird little things. My bedroom door creaked open in the middle of the night, even though all the windows were closed. The lights in the kitchen dimmed every time I stepped in. But the thing that really got under my skin was the hallway. It was this narrow stretch between the front door and my bedroom, nothing strange about it at first. Just old photos on the wall, left by the previous tenant. Faces too faded to recognize. I didn't think much of it. Until one night, I was heading to bed, and the hallway felt longer. Like I was walking for an extra few seconds. I stopped, turned around, and the front door seemed further away. I chalked it up to being tired. Stress. Imagination. But the next night, it happened again. Only this time, when I turned back, the front door wasn't there. Just more hallway. Same dim light. Same photos on the wall. Only the faces weren't faded anymore. They were staring at me. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Not mine. Behind me. I spun around. No one there. But the air was thicker. It pressed against my skin like invisible hands. My heart was racing. I took a step forward. Then another. That's when I heard it. Right behind me. A breath. Low. Wet. Not human. I ran. The hallway stretched further the more I moved. It was like the house didn't want me to leave. The light above me flickered once, then went out. I was swallowed by pitch black darkness. I stopped. Held my breath. Something was moving in there with me. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. The air behind me shifted. Something icy brushed the back of my neck. Then I heard it whisper. You don't belong here. I bolted toward the faint light I could barely make out at the end of the hall. My lungs burned. My legs ached. But whatever was behind me, it was getting closer. Just as I felt something graze my shoulder, I dove through the doorway. I landed hard, scraped my hands, busted my knee. And just like that, I was back. Normal hallway. Front door right in front of me. Except, something had changed. The old photos on the wall were gone. Replaced by one. Just one. A black and white photo. Of me, standing in the hallway. And behind me, a shadow. Watching. Waiting. I used to laugh at haunted house stories. Thought they were just campfire tales for kids. Then I moved into one. We found the place on a chilly December afternoon. 112 Ocean Avenue. Amityville. The real estate agent barely said a word as she handed us the keys. My wife, Kathy, loved the place. Big Dutch colonial, 3 stories, boathouse out back. And the price, practically a steal. Too good to be true. I knew about the murders. Everyone did. A man named DeFeo had killed his whole family in their sleep. 6 people, same night. They said it was over money. Drugs. Mental illness. But I didn't believe in ghosts. A house is just wood and nails, right? I was wrong. It started small. The kind of stuff you explain away. Doors opening on their own. Cold drafts in the middle of the night. Weird smells, like rotting meat, seeping through the walls. And then the flies. God. The flies. Swarms of them on the windows, thick and buzzing, and this was December. Freezing outside. I remember standing in the bathroom one morning, brushing my teeth, and watching dozens of them crawl across the mirror. Then came the voices. Soft at first. Whispers at night. I thought I was dreaming. But Kathy heard them too. Get out, they'd say. Over and over. I started waking up every night at 3:15 a.m. Exact time the murders happened. I'd just sit up, wide awake, drenched in sweat, and feel something watching me, pulling me. The basement had a strange door we didn't notice at first. A little hidden room, painted red. Not on any blueprint. The dog wouldn't go near it. Barked like something was down there. I wish we'd listened. Our daughter started talking to someone she called Jody. We thought it was just an imaginary friend, until Kathy saw her glowing eyes outside the window, watching. And then Jody spoke. Through our daughter. She said we weren't supposed to be there. I stopped eating. Couldn't sleep. I'd sit in the basement for hours, staring at those red walls. I don't even remember why. I just felt drawn. Like something was in there with me. Inside me. Kathy found me one night, standing over our bed with an axe in my hand. I don't remember picking it up. But I remember the look in her eyes. Fear. Like she didn't recognize me anymore. The house wasn't just haunted. It was hungry. The walls started bleeding. I'm not joking. Actual blood. Thick, dark, oozing down like the house itself was alive. Doors slammed shut. The walls screamed. I mean screamed. Like the whole house was howling in pain. Something grabbed Kathy. Left burns on her back. Deep ones. As if she'd been clawed. That night, we ran. I remember the floor cracking beneath our feet. The stairs felt like they were folding in on themselves. A figure stood at the top. Tall, twisted, not human. Its eyes glowed in the dark. It didn't chase us. It didn't have to. We burst through the front door and didn't look back. We left everything. Furniture. Clothes. Photos. Even the dog. I never went back. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I see it again in my dreams. That house. Watching. Waiting. Because some houses don't just remember the past. They collect it. And they never forget who tried to escape. We were desperate for a fresh start. After everything we'd been through, moving into a quiet old house out in the countryside felt like the reset we needed. No neighbors for miles, just trees, wind, and this towering Victorian place at the end of a gravel road. It was called Blackwood House. Even the name sounded like something out of a horror novel. But the price was too good. It was practically given to us. The real estate agent avoided eye contact when we signed the papers. I should have known then. But I didn't listen. I didn't believe houses could hold grudges. Not until we moved in. The first night, it sounded like the walls were breathing. Not creaking. Breathing. Like the whole house was exhaling after years of silence. My daughter, Lily, woke up crying. Said there were people whispering outside her door. My wife, Ellen, chalked it up to nerves. New room. Strange space. I agreed. But I could feel it too. Like the house was watching us. The mirrors fogged up in the mornings like someone had been breathing on them, even though there was no heat. Then the scratches started. Not on the walls. On me. Long, thin lines across my arms. Like fingernails. I tried to convince myself it was just the old wood. Maybe I scraped myself in my sleep. But they kept showing up. Deeper. Meaner. Lily was the first to say it out loud. The house doesn't like us. She said it so calmly, like it was a fact. I laughed it off. Until the basement door opened by itself. We'd been told it was sealed shut. No key. The hinges rusted solid. But one night, it stood wide open. I grabbed a flashlight and went down. The air, it felt different down there. Like it didn't want me inside. Thick and damp, heavy like wet wool on my chest. I swear, it was hard to breathe. And on the walls, words. Hundreds of them, scratched deep into the stone. Get out. It hurts. I remember. Then I heard it. A voice behind me. A whisper, close to my ear, but I was alone. It said my name. David. The light flickered. I spun around, heart pounding. The door slammed shut. Complete darkness. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Just listen to something breathing in the black. I don't know how long I was down there. Eventually, Ellen found the door open again. I stumbled out like I'd been gone for days. After that, I changed. I know I did. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Some nights, I'd wake up standing in the hallway, just staring at the wall, at nothing. Lily said she saw someone walking past her room. A man. But when she called out, no one answered. And the attic. We never went up there. But we always heard footsteps. Ellen found her wedding ring in the fireplace, buried under cold ashes that didn't belong to us. Then came the final night. The house went quiet. Too quiet. No creaks. No groans. Just stillness, like it was holding its breath again. Then we heard the scream. From the basement. Ellen and I both bolted down the hall. I got there first. The door was wide open. Inside, the walls were covered in black handprints. Wet. Dripping. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. Ellen banged on it from the other side. David. David. Then I heard the voice again. Only this time, it wasn't whispering. He's not yours anymore. Something cold passed through me. I fell to the floor. I remember screaming. Not with my mouth. With my soul. The door blew open with a blast of wind that knocked Ellen back. The whole house shook like it was alive. And then, silence. When Ellen stepped inside, I was gone. Just a charred handprint on the wall. Like something had claimed me. She and Lily left that night. Never looked back. The house still stands. Empty. Waiting. Because some houses, they don't just remember. They keep what they take. And I don't think I'm the first. I sure won't be the last. Everyone in Raven Hollow knew the rule. Never go near Midnight Manor. Old, ivy-covered, and dead silent, the house had stood at the edge of town for decades. People said it was cursed. That it took people. That once you went in, you never came out. But when you're 12, rules are just stories. And scary houses. That's just fuel for dares. So when Jake pulled out a flashlight and smirked at me, I already knew what he was about to say. You chicken, Ben. Come on. Just one night. We stay till midnight and prove it's all just talk. I hesitated, looking past the broken gate to the looming shadow of the mansion. Its windows were black, like empty eyes. My stomach twisted. This is a bad idea, Mia said. She was always the cautious one. Ryan, usually the brave one, just swallowed hard. What if the stories are true? I should have said no. I should have gone home. Instead, I said, then we'll find out. The door creaked like it hadn't been touched in 100 years. The second we stepped inside, the air felt wrong. Heavy. Like the house had been waiting for us. Dust covered everything. Furniture. Stairs, old portraits on the walls. The faces in the paintings were faded, but I could swear their eyes followed us. Stick together, Mia whispered. The door slammed behind us. We all jumped. Jake laughed nervously. It's just the wind. But I tried the knob. Locked. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to scare the others. But my heart started to pound. Something knew we were here. We heard it first. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow. Dragging. Like something heavy. Moving. Ryan backed up until he bumped into an old mirror. Let's just leave, he whispered. We can't, I said. Doors locked. The footsteps got closer. We slipped into a large dining room. The table was still set. Plates, silverware, candles. All untouched. Like the people just got up in the middle of dinner and vanished. Then, bang. The chandelier above us shook violently. The crystals clinked together like bones. Silence followed. But it wasn't empty. I could feel it. Something was watching us. Mia pointed at the far wall. Words had appeared. Scrawled in red dust. Leave while you can. Ryan backed away, eyes wide. This place is wrong. Then, a whisper floated through the air. Soft. Hollow. Right behind me. Too late. Every candle on the table flared to life at once. Ryan screamed. I spun around. Something moved in the shadows. Tall. Wrong. Jake grabbed my arm. We gotta go. Now. We ran. The halls stretched longer than they should have. Doors we hadn't seen before appeared and disappeared. The house shifted around us. Then we turned a corner. and stopped dead. A mirror. Huge. Old. But our reflections were off. Mia's reflection smiled. But she wasn't smiling. Mine raised its hand. Before I did. Then it stepped forward. Out of the glass. It grabbed my wrist. Cold. Real. Jake pulled me back. Run. We bolted through the halls, the walls groaning like they were about to collapse. The clock in the foyer began to chime. Midnight. The portraits on the walls, now crystal clear, were screaming silently. Their mouths stretched open, frozen in terror. We reached the front door. Still locked. Help us. Mia pounded on the wood. Then I looked up. At the top of the stairs, it stood. A tall figure, cloaked in shadow, with glowing white eyes. It didn't walk. It glided toward us. You shouldn't have come, it said. I grabbed a chair and hurled it through the window. Glass shattered. Cold air rushed in. We dove out, one by one, landing hard in the grass. We didn't stop running until the house was a speck behind us. Only then did I look back. The figure stood in the broken window, watching us. Then, the lights inside the house went dark. The next morning, I woke in my own bed, heart still racing. It had to be a dream. But when I rolled over, something brushed my arm. I looked down. A handprint. Red. Burned into my skin. As if something had held me in the night. Midnight Manor is far behind us now. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see its windows. And I know it remembers. Because some places don't just haunt. They wait. I never believed in ghosts. Not really. I always thought they were stories people told to make death a little more mysterious, or maybe a little less lonely. But after what happened to me one fog-choked morning in London, I can't say that anymore. Not after riding the Necropolis line. It was my grandmother's funeral. She died quietly in her sleep. Peaceful, they said. She always had a flair for the dramatic in life, so I figured she'd appreciate something grand in death. That's how I ended up booking passage on what I thought was just a historical reenactment, a novelty ride for those obsessed with Victorian history. The London Necropolis Railway. It once transported the dead and their mourning families from London to Brookwood Cemetery. During the 1800s, when the city's graveyards were overflowing, they built this line. A funeral train. Coffins in one car, mourners in another. It felt poetic. At the time, I showed up at the station alone. Early. The man who took my ticket didn't speak much. He just nodded, handed me a black stub with silver lettering, and motioned me toward the platform. There was no one else there. Not a soul. The train was waiting, steam hissing from beneath it like breath from some slumbering beast. It looked wrong. Not aged. Not worn. Just out of place. Like it hadn't aged a day in over a century. I climbed aboard, thinking I'd find a few other mourners or maybe staff dressed in Victorian garb. Instead, I found rows of people sitting silently. Not moving. Not blinking. They were dressed in black, veils drawn, gloves tight. Some clutched lace handkerchiefs. One woman in the front row held a small child whose eyes were closed. A man in the back held a tall top hat in his lap and stared down at his shoes. Every seat was taken. Except for one. The one beside a pale girl in a white dress. I hesitated. She turned to look at me, and smiled. Not a polite smile. A knowing one. Her eyes were too wide, her skin waxy. I told myself it was just part of the experience. A hired actor. A child paid to give guests the creeps. So I sat down beside her. She leaned over and whispered in a soft, flat voice, "You're not supposed to be here yet." I blinked. "Excuse me." Her smile faded. She looked down. They don't like it when someone rides early. The train lurched. With a long wail, it pulled out of the station and into the thick London fog. Everything outside the windows turned white. And then, darker. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. Time didn't feel real. The train didn't shake or sway. It glided like it was floating on something other than tracks. I looked around at the passengers again. They hadn't moved. But one woman's veil had slipped slightly, revealing a face that was all wrong. Her mouth was open wide, like it had been sewn into a permanent scream. Her eyes were clouded over. Dead. I stood. No one looked up. Not even the girl beside me. That's when I noticed the door at the end of the car, one I hadn't seen before. It pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. I made my way toward it, trying not to make a sound, though every footstep echoed like a gunshot. The moment my hand touched the handle, someone whispered right behind me. "You can't leave until your name is called." I turned, heart slamming in my chest. No one was there. I looked at the girl in the white dress. She was staring straight ahead now, whispering to herself. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. The door creaked open on its own. Behind it was a car stacked with wooden coffins. Row after row of them. Candles flickered along the walls, though I hadn't noticed any flame. The air was cold. So cold. I stepped inside. There was one coffin open. Empty. And carved into the inside of the lid, in large blackened letters, was my full name. My full name. I turned and ran. Back through the car of coffins, back past the girl, the veiled woman, the man with the hat. No one moved. No one tried to stop me. But I felt them all watching. The train began to slow. It hissed and wheezed. I could see light breaking through the fog outside the window. When it finally stopped, the doors opened. And I was back. Back at the station. But everything was different. The modern platform was gone. Replaced by soot-covered bricks and gas lamps. The man who had taken my ticket was gone. In his place was a tall figure in a long black coat and a top hat. He looked at me for a long moment. "You got lucky," he said in a voice like grave dirt. "Don't come back until it's your time." That was 6 months ago. I've been dreaming of that girl in the white dress ever since. Of the coffin with my name on it. Of the whisper I heard in that death-filled train. "You can't leave until your name is called." I never told anyone. But last week, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. When I picked up, a small voice whispered, "It's your time now." The line went dead. And now, every time I walk down the street, I swear I can hear the distant wail of a train, even when no tracks are near. I took the night shift because I needed the money. Simple as that. I had just moved to the city, fresh out of a messy breakup, trying to start over. The job wasn't glamorous. Just a janitor for a corporate tower downtown, but it paid decently, and the hours meant I could keep to myself. The building was one of those old high-rises with marble floors and brass elevators, like it still thought it belonged to a more elegant time. 30 floors. That's what the supervisor said on my first day. "You'll be responsible for floors 10 through 15, he said, handing me the clipboard. "Except 13. Skip it." I laughed. Of course. Superstition. Right. He didn't laugh with me. He just looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't go to 13. Ever." I didn't think much of it at first. A lot of buildings skip floor 13. I figured it just wasn't accessible. No buttons for it in the elevator, maybe no doors on the landing. But I was wrong. The first time I noticed it was on a Tuesday, maybe a month in. I was cleaning up vomit in the hallway of 14, cursing under my breath, when I saw the numbers etched into the maintenance hatch beside the stairwell. Floor 13 service access only. The sign looked newer than the others. Too clean. No dust. No grime. Almost like someone had just installed it. Curiosity tugged at me, but I remembered my supervisor's words. So I ignored it. For a while. It started with the sounds. Thuds. Dragging noises. The soft clatter of something metallic, like a chain or a hook scraping against the floor. Always from below. Always from the 13th floor. One night, around 2 a.m., I was on the 12th floor when I heard whispering in the stairwell. I pressed my ear to the door, thinking maybe another cleaner was messing around. But it wasn't one voice. It was a choir of whispers, layered over each other. Male, female, some, not quite human. They didn't say words exactly, More like wet syllables, as if they were practicing how to speak. Trying to remember how to be human. I stumbled back, slammed the door shut, and told myself it was my mind playing tricks on me. But I started to notice other things too. Strange black smudges in the elevators that never wiped off. Scratches that appeared overnight on the walls, always in threes. A mop bucket left at the end of the hallway on 15 that I never put there. And then I found the file. It was a manila folder shoved behind a vent panel on the 12th floor. Almost like someone had hidden it in a hurry. It was labeled, handwritten in thick red ink. 13th floor files. Do not remove. Of course I opened it. Inside were incident reports, dated decades apart. All from former employees, cleaners, night guards, even an office worker or two. Each one described different things. Some saw a little girl in a hospital gown standing in the hallway, tapping the glass. Others mentioned a man in a suit with no face walking through the wall. One account said the elevator went to 13 on its own, even though the button didn't exist. The last file was from someone named Harold Finn. He wrote, I went to 13. I saw what they keep there. I'm not me anymore. If you're reading this, do not listen to the voice. The next page was just a scribbled drawing of an eye, wide open, with something crawling out of it. I should have stopped there. I wanted to stop, but I had to know. One night, I brought a crowbar and flashlight. The service door was locked, but not tightly. The metal hinges were rusted, and with a few pulls, it gave way. The staircase down was darker than it should have been. Cold, too, like I was walking into a refrigerator. Every step echoed strangely, not bouncing back like normal sound but absorbed, like the walls were swallowing it. When I reached the landing marked 13, I hesitated. The air smelled different, like burnt hair and old meat. And then the light bulb above me flickered, and something moved behind the little square window in the door. I should have run. I opened the door. The hallway beyond was dimly lit with flickering fluorescence. The floor was carpeted, but parts were torn up, revealing concrete underneath. Offices lined the sides, but the glass was shattered or covered in grime. There was a buzzing, like electricity, but I couldn't find the source. Then I saw the door at the end of the hall. Archives. I don't remember walking toward it. My legs moved, but it felt like I was gliding. The door creaked open on its own. Inside were rows and rows of filing cabinets, stretching far deeper than the size of the floor should allow. Each cabinet was labeled with names. Thousands of them. And I saw mine. My full name. My birth date. My employee ID. I pulled open the drawer beneath it. Empty. Until something dropped inside it with a thud. A tooth. Not mine. Not yet. I turned. And standing behind me was the girl. The one from the reports. Hospital gown. Matted hair. No eyes. Just empty sockets. She opened her mouth, and I swear I heard my own voice scream from inside her. I ran. I don't remember getting back to the elevator. I don't remember taking the stairs. I just remember stumbling into the maintenance office, shaking and drenched in sweat. I tried to tell my supervisor the next day. But he just looked at me and said, now you understand. Don't go to 13 again. Or next time, the drawer won't be empty. I quit the job the following week. But sometimes, late at night, I dream of the hallway. Of that endless room of files. And I wonder, if there's a drawer for me, how many others are already full? I'd been living alone for about 4 months when I hired a maid. The apartment was too big for me, honestly, one of those colonial-style duplexes on the edge of town with creaky floors and tall, dusty windows. I'd inherited it from my aunt after she passed, and though I loved the space, it started to feel heavy. Like the walls were holding their breath. Her name was Nia. She came highly recommended. A quiet woman in her early 30s, slim, always in gray. Hair pulled tightly into a bun. She had a soft voice that barely rose above a murmur. The agency said she'd worked with older clients and was discreet to a fault. That should have been my first clue. She arrived every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. on the dot. By 9:03, I wouldn't even hear her footsteps anymore, just the occasional clink of a duster or the faint hum of a vacuum. It was like the house cleaned itself. But then the whispering started. At first, I chalked it up to old house noises. Pipes groaning, wind through the cracks. But one night, around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake. I heard it, clear as day. My name, soft, right next to my ear. Nia. I called out into the darkness, heart hammering in my chest. Silence. I got up, checked the doors, the windows. Everything was locked. My phone buzzed. Just a weather alert. No missed calls. I went back to bed, telling myself I'd been dreaming. Except the next morning, I found something strange. On my nightstand sat a small porcelain figurine. A maid, arms crossed, head bowed. I didn't own it. The next Thursday, I asked Nia about it. She didn't answer immediately. She kept dusting the bookshelf like she hadn't heard me. When I pressed again, she turned to me with that same distant smile and said, "Maybe the house is remembering." I didn't know what that meant. But I laughed it off, even though it left a cold chill crawling down my spine. That night, I set up a baby monitor in the hallway. Just to ease my paranoia. I told myself I was being ridiculous. But at 2:48 a.m., the monitor crackled to life. Soft footsteps. Then whispering. Not one voice. Multiple. Layered. Like voices coming from deep within the walls. They repeated my name. Over and over. And then, Nia's voice. Clearer. Sharper. She's listening now. I ripped the plug from the monitor, but the sound didn't stop. It was coming from inside the room. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found Nia already in the kitchen. She wasn't scheduled to come that day. "You're early," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. She didn't look at me. She was staring out the window. "Do you hear them yet?" she whispered. "Who?" She finally turned, and I swear, her eyes didn't look human. Like something behind them was watching me. The other maids. The ones still cleaning. That was the last thing she said before walking out of the house barefoot. She left everything behind. Her bag, her coat, her keys. I called the agency, but they said they'd never had a maid named Nia. Said no one by that name ever worked for them. I checked the logs, the paperwork. Nothing. She never existed. The figurine is still here. Every time I try to throw it away, it shows back up. On the windowsill, on the stairs, once even in my bed. And the whispering. It hasn't stopped. Only now. They don't just say my name. They say hers too. Nia. Over and over and over again. You never forget the first time something truly unexplainable happens to you. It was the summer after my sister died. She was only 7 when it happened. A car accident. One of those freak things that makes no sense. We were both riding our bikes on the sidewalk, and I looked down to tie my shoelace. That's all it took. When I looked up, she was gone. I still hear the tires screech in my sleep. My parents didn't talk about her much after the funeral. Everyone just carried on, like she had been a dream. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. She was real. She was my best friend. The park was our spot. A little broken down place 3 blocks from home, with a rusted slide and 2 swings. She used to race me there every Saturday morning. Her feet could barely touch the ground, but she'd swing as high as she could, shouting into the sky like she could touch the clouds. After she died, I stopped going. Until one afternoon, I felt pulled there. I can't explain it. I was walking home from work, and something told me to turn right instead of left. My body moved before my mind caught up. And there it was. That old park. Just like we left it. Everything looked the same, except older, sadder. The paint on the slide was chipped, the grass overgrown. But the swings were still there. One swing was moving. It was swaying gently, like someone had just jumped off seconds before. I froze. There was no one else in the park. No wind. No kids. Just me. And that swing. It moved like she used to. Rhythmic. Slight tilt to the right. I should have walked away. I knew I should have walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I sat on the other swing. The second I did, a cold chill ran down my spine. Not like a breeze. This felt personal. Like something was brushing past me. Watching me. Then I heard it. A giggle. A little girl's laugh. High-pitched and soft. Just once. Then silence. My heart dropped into my stomach. I looked around, but the park was empty. Just me, the swings, and that feeling. That crawling pressure on the back of my neck. I whispered her name. Sophie. The swing beside me stopped moving. The chains snapped tight like someone had just grabbed them. And then, I felt it. A hand. Small, cold, delicate, slipped into mine. I didn't move. I couldn't breathe. The pressure lasted for only a second, maybe two. Then it was gone. But when I looked down, my hand was dirty. Like it had held onto someone who'd been playing in the dirt. I ran. I didn't look back until I was halfway down the block. And even then, I swear to God, I saw the swing start moving again. But this time, it was higher. Like someone was really swinging. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my room looked longer. Every creak in the floorboard sounded like footsteps. I finally dozed off around 4 a.m. And that's when I dreamt of her. She was standing in the park, in her favorite yellow dress, facing the swing. But she wasn't swinging. She was staring at the empty swing next to her, and crying. When I walked up to her in the dream, she looked right at me and whispered, "Don't let her play alone." I woke up in a cold sweat. I went back the next day. I didn't want to. But I couldn't not go. This time, both swings were moving. No wind. No one there. I sat again. The moment I did, it felt like someone sat beside me. That same pressure. That same cold chill. But this time, there were no giggles. Just silence. And then, a whisper. Right next to my ear. "She's not alone." My stomach twisted. The chains of the swing beside me started to creak. Slowly. In and out. Then it happened. A voice. Not Sophie's. Lower. Hollow. "She doesn't belong to you." I stood up so fast the swing cracked against my back. The air was thick. Angry. I could feel something watching me. The swing kept moving on its own. Faster. Higher. Back and forth until the chains screamed under the tension. And then, snap. The swing beside me broke off the frame and flew across the park, slamming into the slide with a metallic crash. I ran. I didn't stop until I got home. That night, I dreamt again. But it wasn't Sophie this time. It was something else. Same yellow dress. Same hair. Same face. But the eyes were black. Pitch black. And it smiled at me with sharp, jagged teeth. She's mine now. I haven't been back to the park since. But last week, I got a message on Facebook. No name. No profile picture. Just one sentence. "Don't let her swing alone." And a picture. Of the park. Of the swing. And someone. Something. Sitting in it. Looking straight at the camera. Straight at me.